Hi there, I'm Miko.
Yeah, I'm April.
So do you have any ongoing plumbing issues or any clogs in your drains?
Do you want a plumber you can trust? Well, you're in luck. Today we have a guest, Tim Short with Honest Plumbing.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how long have you been a plumber?
I've been plumbing almost 18 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. I started plumbing with my dad when I was 8 years old. And then, when I turned 18, I got put into a truck and been doing it ever since.
Did your dad have a
wow.
local company?
Based out of Santa Barbara. But
wow.
Yeah. So I grew up down there and then moved up here about 12 years ago, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I've been up here since. Yeah.
So he kind of showed you the ropes as far as what to do with the plumbing and.
Yeah, I learned a lot from him. He was more focused on the drain cleaning side of things. Okay. And, when I moved up here, I worked for another local company that was more based in the plumbing side of things. So I got to kind of hone in both skills at both places to be, pretty well-rounded. So, yeah.
Very good. Okay.
So what areas do you cover?
Mainly Orchid, Santa Maria, up to 5 cities pretty regularly. But I go as far south as San Ynez, and as far north as Morro Bay, Paso Robles, if people want to pay for the travel time, which does happen. So,
there is travel time. Okay, well, because gas is so expensive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's getting crazy.
You can't go around in a little Prius.
No, definitely not.
Or or electric car, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any employees that work for you?
No, just a one-man show.
You're a one-man show.
One-man
okay.
show.
All right,
I
show.
I like the quality control.
There you go. You know what you have control over what's getting done, and you're
right.
That's
exactly
perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect.
How did you come up with the name Honest Plumbing?
That would be my wife.
Oh.
I was actually really hesitant because I was like, man, Honest Plumbing, that's a high bar to always try and match. So I actually kind of fought her on a little bit. I'm like, people are gonna expect way too much. The other plumbers are not gonna be happy with, me saying that they're maybe dishonest by saying that I'm Honest Plumbing, But it just turned out to be a good thing. I get a lot of feedback from customers. They're like, I called you because of your name.
Wow.
And I've gotten a lot of business just for that reason alone, was just the name. So of course my wife was right, as she usually is. So. Yeah. But it was way better than all the other names I was coming up with. So, and we stand out because of it too. A lot of people use their name for their business, so-and-so's plumbing, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something that would kind of pop and stand out. And it's been good.
So if someone has an emergency, are you able to get to them pretty quickly?
It's one of the downsides to being a one-man show, not typically. There's been times where I'm 2 or 3 weeks booked out.
Wow.
And then, other times I can usually get to it the same day or by the next day, but I'm usually not the emergency plumber guy. And, and we typically I typically work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Yeah. I don't do the weekends.
Okay.
I have 4 kids at home. And so I like to save the weekends for them.
Oh, absolutely.
And do that. So, but I'm definitely not the emergency plumber guy, but I usually refer a couple different companies when that arises.
Like
people that I
home
trust.
Remediation, like if someone has like a major problem.
Right.
And,
Yeah. And then I have some customers that will just wait for me. They'll turn their water off and deal with it for a couple of days if they really wanted to wait for me, which is
that's nice.
Which is always nice too. Yeah.
So, and what would you say would be your most frequent, calls or?
There is no frequency to it. It's all the big spectrum of plumbing. There is no more common call than the other, honestly. I would say we're seeing a lot more leaks because everything is kind of getting to that age where all the piping systems are starting to fail. So there is a lot of that, and there's a lot of drain cleaning. There's a lot of everything, honestly. I mean,
so you can do a whole house replumb?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And do you use the PEX typically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We usually recommend PEX. Mostly because copper is not as strong as it used to be. You know, we've had a lot of lead laws
Oh.
passed where the amount of lead that's allowed in copper is basically nothing now. There's I mean, it's under 1%. I don't remember what the number is, but there used to be a lot more lead content in it that gave it that strength. And so we have stuff that was built in the 90s and 2000s that are already getting pinhole leaks in them because,
Wow.
one, because of the lack of lead content, and two, poor workmanship. You know, things like reaming out the pipe, a lot of plumbers didn't do, you know, because they're just like blow and go, get it done as fast as you can. And if you don't ream out the inside of the pipe, you create a lot of turbulence, which will cause, you know, pinhole leaks and stuff like that. So we see combination of the two where, you know, plumbing systems that are only 20 to 25 years old are already leaking.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's scary. And then on top of that, we have municipalities like Napomo where they've added chloramine to their water, which is not a good, it doesn't mix well with copper. So we've seen a lot of copper leaks in Napomo since they switched over their system.
Wow.
So I personally am doing complete PEX systems now. We used to do PEX inside the wall, and then where it came out of the wall, we would do, you know, copper stub outs just because it looks nice. And, you know, it looks a lot more professional and rigid. But I made the decision about 6 months ago to just go completely PEX. I've come up with a few methods to still make it look, you know, not as nice as copper, unfortunately, but, you know, I usually have a conversation with the homeowner prior, say, hey, this is why we're doing it this way. It's not going to look as pretty, but longevity-wise, you know, I think it's a lot better decision to stick with that because PEX is not affected by anything in the water, really.
That's good to know. That's
yeah.
really good to know
Yeah,
because
it
I would
is.
have just assumed that, you know, you'd still use copper.
Yeah,
I didn't know- yeah.
I would love to. I would love to because, like I said, it looks way better. But it's just, it's not as reliable anymore. So,
Well,
you
yeah,
know.
we want something reliable
Yeah.
because, well, so like I have a house that's built in the 80s and we, about 15 years ago, I don't know, there was just this wet spot in the bedroom and I kept thinking our puppy was going pee.
Right.
And every time I go in there, it would like, the puppy keeps going pee in this bedroom. and then it was just getting bigger. And
It's a common thing. We've had a lot of
is
dogs
that?
blamed for leaks.
and then we're like, I think there's a leak. And it's a slab leak because you don't see it. And we didn't know where it was coming from. We had to have it, you know, so we had to
Leak
get that
detection.
detector.
Yep.
And
Yep.
anyways, I'm like, you know what? I am not going through this again. So we did all, you know, new PEX above and,
Yeah.
you know, so like you said, the whole house, we're going to do it.
Yep. Yeah. It usually takes about 2 or 3 of those, you know, spot repairs where people are like, no, it's time to do a repipe.
Yeah. What does that typically cost if it's like let's say it's like a 1,300 square foot house? Just on average, just ballpark.
You know, it depends on the company and pricing, and every company is going to charge it differently. I would say you're anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, depending on the company. You know, typically. And yeah, it all depends on the access, whether we're going from a raised foundation or if it's on a slab and we have to go overhead. You know, all that kind of stuff. You know, repipes can vary a lot with a lot of different factors. So yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about because the Orangeburg and galvanized piping, you know, depending on the age of the home that was built. I mean, we're looking at, you know, the 60s for the Orangeburg, right? And that have you come across a lot of that?
That's what we mostly have here in Santa Maria. Yeah. In fact, anything really even from the 50s, because Orangeburg was used actually after World War II because there was a metal shortage. And so they used the metal piping, the cast iron for everything under the house. Because that's what the code called for. And then everything outside, they would go Orangeburg and then clay from the property line out to the street. So you typically have 3 different types of pipe in the most common houses here. But yeah, the Orangeburg is, you know, we come across ones that are completely collapsed. You can't get anything to drain through. And I have some that are still in pristine condition. It's, you know, more rare to see that, but it is, you know, it's a wide range of quality with that stuff. But more often than not, it's usually having to be replaced.
So you have the ability to scope the main line.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
When would you recommend that a consumer have that done?
Anytime you before you buy a house, you want to
Any
know.
age?
Any age. Reason being is I have houses, again, built in the 90s, because we've had plastic pipe since the early 70s. You know, things were kind of switching over to ABS pipe. Now we have a mixture between ABS and PVC, depending on the contractor and what they want to use. But I've seen newer houses, you know, 10 years old, where,
Wow.
you know, there was a settling in the ground, and so now there's a big belly in the pipe. Or somebody didn't glue a joint together, it somehow passed inspection and held pressure at the time, but roots have grown in. You know, we have some fittings that are just gasketed fittings that are used out in the street. I've seen those pull apart because the ground wasn't, you know, backfilled properly. So regardless of the age, I would definitely
Okay, that's good to know.
definitely get it scoped. You know, if it's definitely more important with the older buildings. We see less issues with the new ones, but we do still see issues with them. Yeah.
And what's your cost on that? Do you have a
Again, varies on the company. You know, I don't want to quote pricing and have it be way off from other people, but
yeah.
I think you're gonna. I mean, I can give you a range of like 1 to 500. You know, it depends on the company and the access too. You know, a lot of if there's a clean out, or if we have to go from a roof or pull a toilet, you know, a lot of that's going to be dependent on the price. Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think in your past 18 years, what was the most interesting thing that you found in a clog?
Well, we have...
Since you don't want to talk about price, we'll really put you on the spot.
Hey, that's okay. There are so many stories and so many things. I would say I've pulled back several rodents out of drains.
Ooh,
you know,
yucca.
Oh my God.
houses that have trees that kind of overhang the top of the roof line. You know, squirrels and mice, they'll get in and they'll actually crawl down the vent of these drains, and people are like, all of a sudden the drain just stopped. It never slowed down. It just stopped out of nowhere. And so I think that's probably happened to me 3 or 4 times that I can remember. And then, in terms of like big crazy jobs and stuff, I just finished this was probably about 6 months ago. I did a 2-story house repipe out in Lake Marie, and it was the worst job I've ever done. Every area where we tried to go in between the floors, there was 10 inches of wood that we had to drill through, and it was just awful, absolutely awful. It took, I bid it for 2 weeks. It took almost a month just by myself, going back when I can just to get the job done. We ended up having to replace the whole yard line out front as well, because that was all galvanized piping. Mind you, the house was built in the 70s, where it all should have been copper and plastic, but of course everything was galvanized everywhere. Like the builder wanted it to be bulletproof. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. Wow. Talk about stress.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any like tips or things people should do to keep their pipes good? Like not pour grease down there?
Yeah, that's a big one.
I know people do that
that's
all
a
the
big one.
time.
Yeah. Or people think, okay, I've got a garbage disposal. I'm going to pour a whole thing of leftovers down full of noodles and potatoes. And
it's not good.
No, it is not good. And what's frustrating is the garbage disposal company is actually saying in their instructions, put everything down. It's okay.
Right, exactly. Even bones.
You know, it can handle it. It's like, sure, the disposal can handle it, but your plumbing system can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, my rule of thumb is put whatever you can in the trash, whatever you can't scrape off, then you put down the garbage disposal, and then run plenty of water.
Hot water, cold water, does it matter?
Depends on the plumber you talk to.
Okay.
There's some that say cold water because you want the fats to solidify and be able to drain down.
Okay.
But the problem is a lot of times it will solidify in a spot and not move.
And
so the hot water liquefies those fats and is able to go down, but then they say, well, it coats the pipe.
Right.
I've always been more of a hot water guy, but regardless of the age of your house, you're going to need maintenance occasionally. And, I think you're better off with the hot water and have to get the occasional cleaning that way rather than just causing it to clog up right away with cold water, in my opinion. But
well, that's nice. I'm glad that you clarify, because there are two, there's different opinions out there, and it's just kind of, which one.
And the way I look at it too, when I have like problem drain lines where, like, say I snake a line and it's just not clearing, like your cable, goes through the blockage. As soon as you pull it out, closes right up behind it. A lot of times what I have to do is I have to fill up the sink with really hot water. And so it kind of melts it, and it ends up getting through that clog after I've kind of went in there, loosened everything up. Using cold water, it doesn't typically work. So I'm more of a hot water guy. But
Okay.
So just to add this one little thing, so Tim just recently helped me. I'm redoing my shower, and he pointed out to go to Ferguson because it's higher quality fixtures than to to go to the commercial box stores.
Right.
And so then I'm so excited he got me this drain that is you can remove the hair.
It's got a hair catcher.
Hair catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got that at Ferguson's?
He got it for me.
Oh.
Yeah, a different wholesaler that I showed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So that just kind of will like catch it before it starts.
Yeah, it's got
Preventative.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a little like shape like this to it, to where water can flow through, but hair doesn't. And so, depending on the person, sometimes people are emptying it out every couple days, some are once a month. It depends on the person. But I've been using those a lot now for the last probably 6 months, I'd say, and they've been great. And they come in all different finishes too, which is really nice. Yeah.
So how do people reach you if they would like to talk to you, get an appointment, get a quote?
Phone number is 805-621-7896. So that's usually the best way. Just go straight to my phone. It's not a cell phone number, so people usually try and text it. It does not text. It's a landline transfer to my cell phone. I have to get that fixed because I've lost business because of like, I tried texting you and you never responded.
Oh,
it's
wow.
It's been frustrating. Had I known when I set this all up, because we've been in business now almost 5 years, and had I known back then that people were going to be so tech driven and just in contacting for services, I had no idea. So we do need to get that fixed because I know there's services that'll do that. But that's the best way, just to call that number.
Just call that number.
Yeah, or email would be honestplumbingco@gmail.com.
Great.
And
All
I get
right.
emails throughout the day. So
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
thanks for
We
having me.
appreciate it.
Love the information.
Yeah.
Great.
If you have any further questions, I can be reached at 805-714-8124.
And my number is 805-878-5056. Thank you so much for watching.
See you soon. Bye.
All right.